They said it was going to be just another talk show moment. A friendly chat, a few laughs, maybe a headline or two. But the second Donald Trump stepped onto that golden stage, opposite Oprah Winfrey, the woman America trusts the most, you could feel it. Something huge was about to go down. The lights shimmered. The audience roared. And deep inside that studio, power met peace, and peace wasn't backing down. Trump waved, flashing that trademark confidence. The crowd split between cheers and whispers. Oprah smiled, the calm before a storm she already knew was coming. Because tonight, the interview wasn't just another episode, it was history waiting to happen. Mr. Trump, Oprah began, voice steady, warm, and razor-sharp beneath the kindness. You've been one of the most talked about figures in the world. What do you think people still don't understand about you? Trump smirked, leaned back, and fired the first shot. They don't understand how successful I've been, Oprah. I've done more for America than most presidents ever dreamed of. People love me. Tremendous love. You know it. The audience laughed, not sure if they were supposed to. Some clapped. Others just stared. Oprah didn't flinch. She tilted her head slightly, the queen of calm in front of chaos. Love, she repeated softly. Interesting word. Because a lot of that love seems to come with fear. The room froze. Even the cameraman's hands stiffened on the zoom. Trump chuckled, but there was no humor in it. Fear? People respect me, Oprah. That's what real power looks like. Oprah smiled, slow, knowing. Or maybe it's what insecurity looks like when it's wearing power's clothes. Guess. Real ones. The audience didn't know whether to cheer or hide their faces. Trump leaned forward, eyes narrowing. You invited me here to insult me? Not at all, Oprah replied, voice silk smooth. I invited you here to understand you. But understanding only works when truth walks in with you. That line alone could have ended the show. But Trump wasn't done. I tell the truth more than anyone. That's why the fake media hates me. Maybe, Oprah said quietly, it's not the truth they hate. Maybe it's the noise that drowns it. The audience exploded, applause mixed with shock. Trump raised his voice. You think you can lecture me? I built towers while others were talking. And yet, Oprah whispered, leaning closer, you're still trying to prove how tall you stand. A pin could have dropped. No one breathed. The tension was electric, ego versus empathy, pride versus presence. Trump smiled again, but his eyes had lost that glint. This show will thank me for the ratings, Oprah. Oprah leaned back, calm as sunrise. Maybe, Donald. But not all ratings are worth the price of your reflection. Silence. The kind that makes even the walls listen. Narrator tone deepens. And in that silence, the world saw it. The moment the unshakable was finally shaken. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was truth versus image, and one of them was about to break. Little did anyone know, before this night was over, one of them would walk out, and the other would walk straight into history. The air in the studio felt heavy now, thick with ego, curiosity, and something unspoken. The applause had died down, the smiles faded. It wasn't a talk show anymore. It was a duel. One fought with words. The other fought with reputation. Oprah sat poised, one hand resting gently on her note cards, eyes calm but locked in. Across from her, Trump shifted, adjusting his tie like a boxer fixing his gloves before round two. Mr. Trump, Oprah began again, softly, you've built your career on confidence, but do you ever wonder if that confidence has cost you something? Trump didn't hesitate. It's never cost me anything. I've won at everything I've done. Business, politics, media. People envy success, Oprah, they always have. The audience murmured. A few nodded, most didn't. Trump's words hung in the air, bold, unapologetic, but strangely defensive. Oprah leaned in, her tone lowering. Success is one thing. Respect is another. You can win everything and still lose yourself in the noise. The crowd reacted, a soft wave of gasps and claps. Trump smiled tightly, spoken like someone who's never run a country. Oprah didn't blink. And yet I've helped one heal. The audience erupted, some cheering, some in stunned silence. Trump's jaw tightened. The cameras caught everything. The twitch, the glare, the flicker of pride giving way to irritation. "You're very dramatic, Oprah," he said, forcing a laugh. "Maybe that's why your ratings were good. People love a performance." Oprah smiled, but not kindly. "And people love pretending that anger is confidence." The line hit like thunder. Even the producers behind the glass couldn't hide their shock. Trump's tone shifted. "You're trying to make me look weak. You can't. I built towers taller than this studio." Oprah's voice stayed steady. "Towers fall, Donald. Character doesn't." The crowd lost it, cheering, clapping, shouting. Trump tried to speak over them, but the noise drowned him out. He slammed his hand lightly on the armrest. "This isn't about character. This is about results. I changed the world." "Maybe," Oprah said, eyes softening just slightly. "But changing the world means more when you're not always the center of it." That stopped him cold. For the first time, Trump looked uncertain. Only for a second, but Oprah saw it. Everyone did. The tension built again, like a fire that refused to die. "You invited me here to attack me," Trump said, voice rising. "You should thank me for even showing up." Oprah nodded slowly. "I'm not attacking you, Donald. I'm inviting you to listen, something far more dangerous." The audience went quiet again. The silence had weight now. Every word was a weapon. Every second was a countdown. Narrator tone lowers, cinematic pulse. Trump had faced journalists, world leaders, and critics before, but never someone who fought with calm. Every time he tried to dominate, she disarmed. Every time he raised his voice, she lowered hers. And the quieter she got, the louder the truth became. The camera zoomed in. Two faces, two forces. Confidence versus compassion. Noise versus meaning. And though Trump smiled, deep down he knew the control was slipping. Because in that room, for the first time in a long time, the loudest voice wasn't winning. Narrator tone sharpens. The audience could feel it too. The battle wasn't just on the couch, it was inside every viewer's mind. What's stronger, the person who dominates, or the one who stays composed? No one knew it yet, but the next 5 minutes would push one of them to their limit. And when it happened, the whole world would watch it unfold, frame by frame. By now, the studio didn't sound like a studio anymore. It felt like a courtroom, and every viewer at home had just become the jury. Trump sat tall, lips tight, breathing heavy but pretending not to. Oprah stayed poised, still as glass, her calm the sharpest weapon in the room. When she spoke, her words cut through the tension like a blade wrapped in velvet. "Mr. Trump, you've said again and again that you fight for the people. But tell me, when was the last time you listened to them?" The crowd froze. That question, quiet, simple, landed harder than any insult could. Trump's smirk faltered. "I listen all the time, Oprah. I know what people want. They want strong leaders, not soft talkers." Oprah leaned in just a little, her eyes locked on his. "There's a difference between hearing noise and hearing pain." The audience gasped. That raw silence filled the space again. You could almost feel every heartbeat syncing with hers. Trump shifted in his seat, visibly irritated. "Pain? I created jobs. I built an economy. People loved me. You call that pain?" Oprah's voice dropped to a whisper. "No. I call it denial." The room erupted, applause, gasps, murmurs all colliding into chaos. Trump turned sharply toward the crowd. "You see? This is what happens when people forget who made them successful." The cheers died instantly. You could see it in their faces, the audience wasn't with him anymore. They weren't enemies, they were witnesses. Oprah stayed silent. She didn't need to speak. The silence itself spoke louder than him. Finally, she asked, "Do you ever wonder why people laugh less when you walk into the room now?" Trump blinked. The question caught him off guard. His lips twitched into a half-smile, but his tone cracked. "They don't laugh less. They laugh differently." "And maybe," Oprah said softly, "that's the problem." The tension broke like glass. The audience's silence wasn't out of respect anymore. It was out of shock. This wasn't entertainment. This was exposure. Trump sat forward, voice louder now. You think you're so righteous, Oprah? You've had scandals too. Don't play saint. Oprah nodded slowly. And I faced them. I didn't walk out of rooms. I walked through them. That line hit like lightning. Every camera zoomed in. Every producer whispered, "Keep rolling." Trump's jaw clenched. "You're twisting everything I say." "Maybe," Oprah said calmly, "or maybe you're just not used to being questioned by someone you can't overpower." The crowd couldn't contain it anymore, half gasped, half cheered. It was like watching two worlds collide. One of arrogance, one of awareness. Trump leaned back, forcing a grin. "You'll thank me later for these views. I make people watch, Oprah. I make shows go viral." Oprah looked straight into the camera, unbothered. "Maybe you do. But tonight, it's not you they're watching. It's your reflection." Silence. That was the moment. The air changed. Even Trump didn't move, not for a few seconds that felt eternal. Narrator tone slows, cinematic echo. In that pause, the audience realized something unforgettable. It wasn't the politician who had the power, it was the calm woman sitting across from him. And as the lights reflected off that golden stage, every viewer at home saw it too. Ego cracking under the weight of truth. No shouting. No chaos. Just one sentence that stopped the world. When the truth finally speaks, noise disappears. And in that single moment, the audience didn't clap. Because they knew they were watching history. The silence after Oprah's last words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Trump's face tightened. His jaw locked. His hands clenched the edges of his chair like he was holding himself together. Everyone in that room knew, something inside him had cracked. He leaned forward, his voice trembling but loud enough to echo through every corner of the studio. "You think you're so perfect, Oprah? You think your fake smiles and fancy speeches make you better than me? I've done more for America than anyone sitting in this room." The crowd gasped. Some murmured. Others looked away. It wasn't confidence anymore. It was anger, raw and unfiltered. Oprah didn't move. Her stillness made his rage look even louder. "Donald," she said softly, "I never said I was perfect. I just don't confuse pride with strength." That line hit him like lightning. He stood up suddenly, pointing at her. "Don't lecture me. You don't know what it's like to have the world against you." Oprah's tone dropped to a whisper. "No, I do. I just didn't let it change who I am." The crowd froze. Even the camera crew stopped breathing. Trump's face turned red, his voice shaking with fury. "You invited me here to humiliate me. You want your little moment of fame? Fine. But remember this, nobody humiliates me." Oprah's eyes softened, but her words stayed steady. "Donald, nobody's humiliating you. You're just showing us what happens when power feels questioned." The audience erupted, some clapping, some gasping. It was chaos wrapped in silence. Trump's breathing grew heavy. He turned toward the crowd. "You see that? That's what the media does. They twist, they trap, they turn truth into theater. You all love this, don't you?" No one responded. The silence hit him harder than any insult could. He turned back to Oprah, his voice breaking through the quiet. "I came here to tell my story, not to be mocked on national television." Oprah took a breath, her voice like calm thunder. "Then tell it. But remember, stories only matter when they're honest." Trump stared at her, eyes blazing, veins visible on his forehead. "You think you're the judge of honesty?" "I think honesty doesn't need a judge," she said, leaning forward. "It reveals itself when the noise stops." That was it. The snap. The moment when power lost control. Trump slammed his hand on the armrest, the microphone crackling. "You know what, Oprah? I'm done. You can have your little audience. I don't need this circus." He ripped off his mic. The sound of the clip hitting the floor was louder than the applause had ever been. The crowd gasped. Producers shouted behind the glass. Security took a step forward, unsure if they should move or just let history unfold. Oprah stayed seated, still, composed, glowing under the stage lights. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "You don't have to leave, Donald. But walking away won't make the truth disappear." He froze mid-step, for just a second. Every camera zoomed in. You could hear the heartbeat of the room. He turned slightly, anger and confusion battling behind his eyes. Then he muttered, "You'll regret this," and stormed toward the exit. The doors burst open. The sound echoed like thunder rolling through the studio. And then, silence. A silence so heavy, so powerful, that even Oprah took a deep breath before speaking. She turned to the camera, her voice calm but firm. "Well," she said, a faint smile crossing her lips, "sometimes the loudest exit says the most." The audience rose, not in laughter, but in awe. They just witnessed something more than an interview. They'd seen pride implode on live television. And as Oprah's words replayed in the minds of millions, the message was clear: you can command a nation, build towers, and shape headlines. But if you can't face truth, it will find you, even under the brightest lights. The sound of that studio door slamming was louder than any applause could ever be. For a moment, the cameras didn't move. The audience didn't breathe. Donald Trump was gone, and Oprah Winfrey sat alone under the blinding lights. The red glow of the stage reflected in her eyes, but she wasn't shaken. Not even a little. The silence was sacred, the kind of silence that happens only after truth has spoken. Oprah lifted her glass of water, looked at the audience, and whispered, "Well, that was unexpected." Laughter erupted. Not mocking, just release. The pressure of 10 minutes of tension finally cracked, and the studio exhaled. But across the world, millions were inhaling. Within minutes, the footage hit Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. Hashtag Trump walkout, hashtag Oprah interview, hashtag truth wins, trending in over 50 countries within the hour. Clips replayed in slow motion, Trump's glare, Oprah's stillness, the mic hitting the floor. Every angle, every word, dissected and looped with captions like, "When calm defeats chaos." Oprah didn't argue, she exposed. CNN called it the most unpredictable TV moment of the decade. Fox News called it a setup. And TikTok? TikTok turned it into a movement. Edits flooded the platform, dramatic music, subtitles, even fan-made trailers titled, "The Night Oprah Broke the Internet." But it wasn't just viral, it was cultural. People weren't just sharing the clip, they were feeling it. Because this wasn't just about Trump walking off a stage. It was about ego meeting empathy, and realizing empathy doesn't flinch. Backstage, producers were panicking. Security guards were whispering. But Oprah stayed seated, her hand resting gently on her note cards, her gaze still calm. She looked toward the cameras again and said softly, "Sometimes, silence answers louder than words ever could." The audience stood up, not screaming, not clapping wildly, but standing in quiet respect. They knew they'd just seen something bigger than an interview. It was transformation on live television. And when the show ended, the reactions came pouring in. News anchors called it the moment the world saw power lose control. Celebrities reposted the clip with captions like, "Oprah just gave a masterclass in grace under fire. This is how you hold your ground without raising your voice." Within 24 hours, the video had over 200 million views across platforms. The comments section turned into a digital battlefield. Supporters defended Trump. Critics praised Oprah. But everyone agreed on one thing: they couldn't look away. And through it all, Oprah never released a statement. No tweet. No interview. Just that same quiet look from the end of the show. The look that said, "I don't need to win the argument. I just need to stay real." Because in a world addicted to noise, one moment of silence can echo louder than 1,000 speeches. The night Trump walked out, the world didn't just watch a man lose his temper. It watched truth take center stage. And the woman who never raised her voice, raised the standard. The next morning, the world woke up different. Across every screen, every headline, and every news feed, one moment played on repeat. Donald Trump storming off stage. Oprah Winfrey sitting still, calm, silent, unshaken. It wasn't just an interview anymore. It was the moment. The moment everyone had something to say about. Hashtag Trump walkout was still trending, now joined by hashtag Oprah truth and hashtag silent speaks. Twitter turned into a war zone. Half the world defended Trump's pride. The other half celebrated Oprah's poise. And somewhere in between, the truth stood quietly, needing no defense. Major networks ran 24-hour coverage. CNN replayed the footage with slow-motion analysis. Fox News called it a stage trap. BBC called it television history. And social media? Social media called it karma, in real time. Narrator tone slows, emotional undercurrent builds. Clips flooded TikTok. Every second of Oprah's stare became a meme, a motivational video, a remix with cinematic music. Creators captioned it, "This isn't silence, this is power." The moment calm defeated chaos. Within 48 hours, the video crossed 500 million views. YouTube comments looked like confessionals. People writing about their own lives, their bosses, their families, their own battles with control. It wasn't about politics anymore. It was about people seeing themselves in that room. One comment stood out. It went viral itself. When Trump yelled, "I saw my boss." When Oprah stayed calm, "I saw who I want to be." That line hit home for millions. Because this wasn't about who was right. It was about who stayed real. Narrator tone sharpens, cinematic rhythm. Oprah stayed silent for days. No interviews. No statements. No press tours. But her silence spoke louder than any interview ever could. Meanwhile, Trump's team released an official response. President Trump was ambushed by a biased host. The entire interview was unfair. But by then, it didn't matter. The internet had already made up its mind. Edits of Oprah's calm face next to Trump's angry walkout flooded every corner of the web. TikTokers called it the calm queen versus the chaos king. Podcasts analyzed her body language like it was a masterclass in leadership. Even psychology professors joined in, saying, "What we saw that night wasn't politics, it was human behavior in its rawest form." And through it all, Oprah said nothing. Not a single word. No tweets, no posts, just silence. And that silence became legend. Because sometimes, silence isn't absence, it's dominance. Weeks passed, but the world didn't move on. They replayed it, reshared it, relived it. Because deep down, everyone recognized the truth. You can build empires, run countries, own headlines. But if you can't control your reaction, you'll never control your story. And Oprah, without raising her voice, just taught the world that lesson on live television. The aftershock wasn't noise. It was awakening. And from that night on, one thing was certain. The world didn't just remember what was said. It remembered how it was handled. Days passed. But the echo of that night refused to fade. The clip of Donald Trump walking out and Oprah Winfrey sitting still became more than just a viral video. It became a reflection. A mirror held up to millions of people, asking one quiet question. What kind of power do you believe in? In living rooms across America, families rewatched that moment. Some laughed. Some argued. Some just sat in silence, realizing they weren't watching a fight. They were watching a truth being revealed. Because that night, something shifted. A man known for volume met a woman known for vision. And the world saw what happens when ego meets empathy, and empathy doesn't move. Narrator tone deepens. For years, Trump's legacy had been built on dominance. Out-talking, outshining, overpowering. But Oprah didn't play that game. She didn't shout. She didn't attack. She just stayed still. And that stillness turned into a storm. People didn't just remember what she said. They remembered how she said it. Certain. Unshaken. And in that moment, she reminded the world that true strength doesn't need to scream. It just needs to stand. That interview went down in history, not because someone walked out, but because someone stayed seated. Oprah's silence became the symbol of a new kind of power. The power of presence. The power of knowing that you don't need to win every argument. Because the truth doesn't compete, it waits. Weeks later, universities studied it. Motivational speakers quoted it. Psychologists analyzed it. And the audience? They just kept replaying it, not for the drama, but for the calm inside it. Because what the world saw that night wasn't a celebrity showdown. It was a human awakening. A reminder that you can build towers, run nations, or control headlines. But if you lose control of yourself, you lose the room. That's the legacy of that clash. It wasn't about who was right. It was about who stayed real. And as the lights faded on that golden stage, one truth shone brighter than ever. In a world addicted to noise, silence still wins. If this story made you think, made you feel, or reminded you what real strength looks like, then don't just scroll away. Backhand index pointing right, hit subscribe for more stories that reveal truth, test power, and show what happens when the spotlight turns real. Speech balloon comment below. Who do you think truly won? The one who shouted or the one who stayed calm? Share this video with someone who needs to hear that silence is also power. And remember, truth doesn't always come from the loudest voice. Sometimes, it comes from the calmest one.